Hello, and welcome to Eastwind HealerCast. This is an opportunity to learn more about the expertise, experience, and excitement each of our practitioners bring to the services they provide for clients here at Eastwind Healing Center in Iowa City, Iowa. We are a collection of independent business owners who share this beautiful, integrative healing space. We are offering this podcast as an opportunity to learn more about services offered here at Eastwind, and this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for proper medical care or the initiation of a practitioner-client relationship. We are a collection of independent businesses who share this beautiful integrative healing space. My name is Dr. Kerri Husman, and I have a psychiatric practice as well as a coaching and wellness practice under our roof here at Eastwind. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today Kerry Gundlach, registered and licensed dietitian. Kerri is also a credentialed provider of integrative and functional nutrition and holds a certificate of training in mindfulness-based eating and living. She is owner of Iowa City Functional Nutrition and recently joined the Eastwind Healing Center Collective. Welcome, Kerri.
Thank you, Kerri. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, and we're so glad to have you. So, can you tell us a little bit about functional nutrition and how it's different from other approaches to nutrition?
Sure. So functional nutrition is a subspecialty of nutrition and dietetics. So as you mentioned, I am a registered and licensed dietitian, and that's really the top training that you can have in the field of nutrition. It requires a master's degree as well as extensive training and internship in the field of dietetics, especially medical nutrition therapy, as well as chronic disease management. Functional nutrition works alongside functional medicine. If you're not familiar with functional medicine, we have an amazing functional medicine provider here at Eastwind, Dr. Julia Buchkina. And functional nutrition really partners with functional medicine. So functional medicine suggests that all disease is related to root cause. And it aims to address root causes of disease so that we can heal not just one disease or improve one symptom, but try to resolve multiple symptoms, manage multiple chronic conditions. So really a true form of healing. In functional medicine, a lot of those root causes involve things like chronic inflammation, which is a major driver of most chronic health conditions today. There's a lot of focus on gut microbiome, so it's restoring the health of the gut microbiome to prevent and manage various chronic conditions from diabetes, weight management, non-alcoholic fatty liver, chronic pain, all sorts of mental health, and various other things like oxidative stress and hormone balance. But nutrition plays a role in all of those systems. Nutrition is one of the most powerful forms of healing that we can apply to our health. So functional nutrition is a really critical aspect of functional medicine.
Terrific. Thank you for that explanation and how it contrasts and compares, but also supplements functional medicine. So did something happen either with a patient or in your life or with your family that brought you to be interested in adding this to your dietitian practice?
Yeah, well, nutrition's been kind of an interesting path for me. I've always loved the sciences since I was a kid, the natural sciences, the human body, and I actually got a degree in natural resources and biology. That's my bachelor's degree. And I was living in Northern California up in the Redwoods when I was pursuing that. And when I was there, I fell in love with the local food community. And that engagement with local food and whole foods and kind of steering away from a lot of the processed food I was eating, high in sugar and white flour, really changed my health. So since I was young, I can remember being 8 years old, I struggled with a lot of stomach issues, just bloating and stomach pain, and I would eat at times and just feel really sick. But in the 1980s, we didn't really know a lot about what that was. It just kind of got dismissed, and not to blame anyone, but the diagnoses weren't there. It was just irritable bowel till I was in my young 20s. And so fast forward to my 20s, when I was in school studying natural resources and changing my diet, I noticed a lot of improvement in my health. So I was applying some functional nutrition approaches without even really knowing it. And what I started to see as I continued to take out a lot of the processed food and add in more high quality protein and vegetables, natural foods, is my gut issues started to improve. I identified a couple food sensitivities and gradually started realizing that that was contributing. And so I was on my own path to healing through food, and that was really inspiring to me. And so I had an opportunity to continue to continue on in school and do my master's in paleobotany, which was really exciting. But my heart kept calling me to pursue nutrition. So I made a last minute shift and I pursued my master's in nutritional science at Colorado State. And when I was doing my dietetic internship at the University of Michigan, I met an amazing dietitian who introduced me to functional medicine. And I was like, this is it. This is why I'm here. I didn't know there was a specialty practice out there. It was really amazing. So that was kind of serendipitous. But it wasn't till 2017 that I found the academy called the Integrative and Functional Nutrition Academy. That is where I decided to do my training. So they are kind of the gold standard in nutrition and dietetics for dietitians looking to get trained in functional nutrition. So
Terrific.
long story short.
Yeah.
That's the short version.
But what a fascinating journey, and
It's
so
been
glad
fun.
you are where you are at now.
Yeah.
So can you give an example? It sounds like functional nutrition could help a lot of people. And as a psychiatrist, I'm pretty interested in what can help folks who have mental health issues. So could you give an example of how functional nutrition could help a client with mental health issues?
Yeah, that's a fascinating topic. It's one of my specialty areas and passion areas. When I was in graduate school in the early 2000s, we learned a little bit about how omega-3 fats are important for preventing depression and anxiety, but that was about it. Looking at the literature now and the research and science, the studies around nutrition and mental health have been out for decades. We know that standard American diet increases risk for depression and anxiety. We know that a lot of dietary patterns can be protective against mental health challenges or lower the symptoms of them. So things like the Mediterranean eating pattern, anti-inflammatory foods are really powerful. So there's a lot of amazing research, and one of the things I like to do is take somewhat of a deeper dive into someone's nutritional health. So for example, one aspect of what I would think about is amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of protein. We don't often think of protein as being important for mental well-being, but it's one of the many nutrients that are important. So for example, we need tryptophan and tyrosine to help produce neurotransmitters, these brain chemicals like dopamine, which helps us feel activated and alert, serotonin, which helps us feel calm and relaxed. And the fascinating thing is the precursors to those are amino acids. So in addition, in order to convert those amino acids into these important neurotransmitters, they require various nutrients, B vitamins, magnesium. So that's also critical. Is the magnesium status, the B status adequate? So that's one area looking at nutrition for mental health. The era of fat-free eating is no longer considered healthy. We need fats in our diet. So I'm also looking at things like, is someone eating enough healthy fats? Things like olive oil, nuts and seeds, omega-3 fats that we get in sardines and salmon and walnuts and flaxseed, hemp seeds, chia seeds. That's critical as well. Inflammation is a big driver. And then I could talk for days about the gut microbiome, but the gut-brain axis is huge. Irritable bowel, fibromyalgia, a lot of chronic conditions we can trace back to dysbiosis or alterations in the gut microbiome. So that's another area we look at.
So there are a lot of ways, a lot of places that you can come in to really make a difference.
I mean, we can start with anti-inflammatory eating and then kind of dial into key nutrients. Mm-hmm. Blood sugar balance is another big one. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. And so you'd already mentioned a little bit about like the NutriVal.
I don't think I mentioned NutriVal, but I'd be happy to talk about that.
Yeah. So tell me, so I guess what I'm interested in is how are you assessing the status of those key nutritional factors? You're doing some labs. And so how does that work with patients? Do they get the labs drawn at Eastwind or they get them drawn somewhere else? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so a lot of times when people think of nutrition labs, they say, oh, I had that done in primary care. My A1C is fine. My cholesterol is fine. But functional, sometimes people hear it in the media as functional health labs or functional nutrition labs. This is a much deeper dive into your nutritional health and well-being. So the test that a lot of my clients use is the NutriEval, and it's 125 different biomarkers of nutritional health. And it looks at a lot of those root causes that drive a lot of chronic disease, drive a lot of aging, energy challenges, mental health challenges. And so it looks at things like what nutrients might be lacking that's promoting oxidative stress. So what are the antioxidant levels, or what nutrients might be lacking that's important for the energy cycle? What is the omega-3, omega-6 balance? Things like methylation, which is someone could have a genetic variant where they're not methylating things properly, and that can cause a lot of issues with energy and mental health and eliminating toxins from the body, which can also increase oxidative stress and inflammation. So it takes a much deeper dive, and it does some serum levels, which are like direct measurements of nutrients from the blood. But there's some flaws in that, in the sense that the serum, the body does a pretty good job of keeping our serum levels pretty where they're supposed to be. You know, I think about calcium. We might pull some calcium from our bones to maintain a healthy serum level of calcium so that we can keep our heart functioning, because it's one of our most important organs. Magnesium might be the same, but there could be metabolic processes in the body that are not getting enough of that nutrient because it's being prioritized to a more important system in the body. And so typically those less important processes are things like the energy cycle. That's a big one. Magnesium might be, enough to keep the heart going or some other important systems, but there may not be enough to keep the energy cycle running optimally, or not enough for production of those neurotransmitters. And those are your more functional markers. And we measure those with urinary organic acids. So organic acids are just compounds that are produced through different metabolic pathways. And if you think of like the energy cycle, organic acids are produced throughout the energy cycle. But if we see high levels of an organic acid, that typically then we can look and see what vitamins or minerals are lacking, because that organic acid doesn't have enough of that vitamin or mineral to act as what's called a cofactor to drive the next step in the process. And so it builds up. So magnesium is a great example. B vitamins are a great example. CoQ10. So yeah, looking at some of those urinary organic acids they're a better marker of functional health and well-being. So
terrific.
Little complicated but fascinating, and it's really, really useful and can make a big difference in the way someone feels day to day to optimize those.
And I'm glad you're really taking a broad scope there when you're looking. So
yeah, the NutriEval is intended to be a nice broad scope of your nutritional health. There's even some gut health markers to look for some dysbiosis or intestinal yeast overgrowth. But I also have some labs that can take a deeper dive into digestive health, gut microbiome. So there is a separate test for that if people are wanting more information on their gut health.
Great. So I guess, it sounds like, you're doing some labs, you're definitely working with people. Can you give us more of a range of the things you do when you work with somebody?
Sure. And labs aren't required for me to work with somebody. Really, I'm here to help people navigate nutrition so they can feel more at ease about what they're eating, take some of the guesswork out of it. There's so much nutrition information. And I always remind people that when we look at all the different approaches to eating, including the ones that have a lot of science and research and evidence behind them being useful, the majority of these different eating patterns, whether it's ketogenic or it's Mediterranean or DASH or MIND diet, they all overlap in some common areas, and we can go back to that foundational nutrition approach and start there, which is what I do with everybody. But I'm also trained in medical nutrition therapy. So if someone has a new diagnosis, whether it's complex chronic conditions like fibromyalgia and irritable bowel, or if it's something like hypertension, I'm going to use that functional nutrition lens. I'm going to look at root causes. Instead of just low sodium diet for hypertension, I'm going to be thinking about foods that lower inflammation, foods that are rich in magnesium and potassium, things even beyond nutrition like stress and movement, and also really helping people with the practical application. So what does that supplement? Is that really important? I heard about it on a commercial. Or what recipes can I share with someone that's going to make cooking easier for them or more enjoyable? And I also try to apply a mindful and intuitive approach. One of my biggest hopes or goals for people is that they not only take the external knowledge that I can share with them from the science, but they really start to pay more attention to how food makes them feel. What keeps people going forward on making healthy, positive changes in their life is when they get up and they feel better, they can do the things that they love or connect with the people they love more easily because they feel better. And, I experienced that myself over the years, but I see it in people all the time, that when we connect with our own internal wisdom on how food impacts our overall health, and it might take some time to change, but that's the most powerful thing. Anything that's more powerful than the blood pressure reader or the scale or a cholesterol panel. It's helping people feel their best every day so they can do the things that matter to them.
Terrific. And that is a great segue into my next question about the training that you did in the mindfulness-based eating and living. How does that translate into patient care?
Yeah. When I was living in Northern California, one of the things I really loved when I was starting to explore like local food and changing my diet was all the potlucks we had together in college with organic local farms. And you don't have to eat organic to be healthy, but I really enjoyed knowing the farmers. And I think it heightened my awareness of like really paying attention to the food in front of me. I also love the natural sciences and the outdoors. So if I'm not, you'll find me outside anytime I'm not, working. And so when I look at vegetables and whole foods, I feel like I have a part of the outdoors inside or even in my body. And so I just have this deep appreciation for the food that's grown. And I've tried to instill that in some of the clients I see. So in COVID era, I think it was 2020. Yeah, it was COVID. It's 2020. I kept seeing that this was a great training for registered dietitians to have an extensive training in mindfulness-based eating and living. And I always wanted to do it, and COVID just seemed like the right time. So it trains dietitians to help clients apply intuitive and mindful eating and practices. So things like self-compassion, how our thoughts maybe, how food might drive positive thoughts or negative thoughts, and to try and to replace our negative thought patterns with compassionate, positive, letting go of the shoulds and the can'ts and replacing it with the wants and I have the choice. And really, I think really helping people find that thought pattern in the language that's going to be the most positive and self-compassionate. And then also works a little, I'm not certified trained in eating disorders, but it does help support people that have some disordered eating patterns that are working alongside a psychologist. I have definitely some confidence in that area, but also lean on dietitians that have specialized certifications in that area. But to me, food is joy and food is connection, and food is really something we can apply gratitude towards every time we sit down and eat. It's something that when we're chopping food in our kitchen, we can see those bright colors and think about the miracle of that plant. And sounds maybe cheesy, but it's truly what I see and feel and believe. And I want to help others enjoy that as well. I think food, there's just a lot of disordered thought patterns around nutrition and what it should be. And it really should be ease and joy and a journey that's enjoyable.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So does someone have to live in Iowa to use your nutrition services? How does that work?
Yeah, so because I'm licensed in the state of Iowa, this is primarily where I practice, but the dietetic licensure laws are a little unique in the sense that, well, maybe not too unique, but every state dictates the licensure laws. So there's actually states where I can practice, like I can practice in California, I can practice in Colorado. I can't practice in certain states because of their licensure laws. So if someone is out of state, I just need to check the licensure laws, which I'm familiar with some states. And if I haven't worked with a client in a state, I'll just look up their licensure laws.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And how could someone get started working with you? What are the next steps?
Yeah. Well, I love an email. You can just shoot me an email, which I think Kerri will make sure to share that, right? And on my website, iowacity.functionalnutrition.com, there is a contact form. Super easy to fill out. You just fill that out and say you're interested in working with me. Maybe share what your goal is. And I do offer free 20-minute discovery calls, which is pretty typical of most private practice dietitians. And the intention of that is not to give you nutritional advice at that time, but just to learn more about what you want to get out of it, maybe what you've already tried and done, and see if this would be a good match for you. I also want to make sure that the challenges that a person is facing is something that I am specialized in and know that I can address, because the field of dietetics is very broad. You know, we have certified diabetes educators, we have certified oncology dietitians, and I've actually practiced in those areas as well. But I just make sure that the services I offer are in line with the goals of the person interested.
Perfect. That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kerri, for joining us today and for the important work you're doing. We are so glad that you are now working here at Eastwind with us and the clients that we serve. Potential clients can reach out to you with questions by going to iowacity.functionalnutrition.com or eastwindhealingcenter.com, which will both get you to the connecting resources. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kerri. Thanks for having me.
You bet.